Hello? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to part 3 of the Last Dance reactions, brought to you by the Get Got podcast. And myself, I am Wade, and with me as always is Gino here, other member of the Get Got podcast.
Ew.
And with us again, we got Pat Ralph, who is a guest of episode 3 of the Get Got podcast. He's a writer for Philly Voice, and he also hosts the Point After podcast. How we doing, Pat?
I'm good. Good to be back with you boys. Excited to chat about The Last Dance.
Yeah, good to have you back, Pat. Good to have you back.
Yep. Appreciate it. And without further ado, just going to plug real quick, though. We got to get everyone check out Get Got podcast. Check out the Point After podcast. You can search us both on, I know us, Spotify and YouTube. And I believe you could even get Pat on Apple Music. Am I wrong?
You can get us on Apple Podcasts. That's correct.
There you go. All right. So without further ado, boys, let's dive right into it. So we're going to stick to this one. We're going to stick to the same order the episode went on. So first off, we're going to talk a little bit of that Pacers Bulls 1998 Eastern Finals. Reggie Miller, tensions are high. They show some of those flashback moments where we see him and MJ getting into little tussles. And
Yeah.
it was cool to see, you know, and that's when he coined him as Black Jesus, because that's what he said to him when he owned him that first day.
He wouldn't refer to him as Michael Jordan, right?
Jordan.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't
refer to him as Jordan.
after that day that he made the comment about him walking on water, and then MJ went off on him, and he was like, "You just got your ass beat by Black Jesus."
I thought that was such a fascinating rival. Like, they were so into it on the court, like they were so competitive, but off the court they were kind of like not friendly, right, Pat? Like they were kind of just like
I think they respected each other.
Yeah,
I think it was one of those things where they're not buddies, but I think clearly, obviously, Reggie Miller respected MJ because the fact that he wouldn't even call him Michael Jordan, he's calling him the Black Cat, Black Jesus.
Even in media, like the press conferences and stuff.
Yeah, and he still does that today. If you hear him on TNT and stuff, he still does that. So, and I think Jordan, even though he wasn't buddies with him, I think there was that mutual respect. Like, hey, this guy is a good player. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA player, and obviously he's a Hall of Famer. So he's one of the greatest shooters we've had in our game. So I think there was just a mutual respect there between both of them.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome to see Reggie Miller back then. That was in his young days, just a scrawny little kid, like they said.
Yeah.
And just awesome to see him. Like, he was good. He was a serious player and a serious competitor. Like I said, him and MJ on the court were just trash talk after trash talk. But in the end, it was always MJ taking over.
Yeah, except in that one game where they show where he was just like cold as ice, Reggie Miller. Like that shot was beautiful, where he ties the series at 2. A little bit of a push off, but this is a shot. And by a little bit, I mean like manhandled the man. But no, I mean it was good no call. Tough part of the game, and he just drilled that shot. I mean, everybody has their game. But the best part of that is Larry Bird's face, which they accentuated. And he's just like, "Fuck, there's still time on the clock." No.
You know what I thought about that face, Wade, was I thought actually I thought obviously first, number one, he's thinking you leave a little bit of time on the clock. That's too much for Michael Jordan, like how we talk about football when the Patriots or the Packers or the Saints are trailing. You don't want to give any of those quarterbacks any time on the clock. I thought the thing I thought about with Larry Bird was that not only was that a sign that like how much he respected Jordan, but it actually showed that even though he didn't coach for long, it was a really good sign of how good of a coach he was, because even though you go up and you think that you have the game over and won, it showed that you always have to be ready for the next play. And you just always are kind of thinking, all right, game's not over yet. I'm focused on how do we stop MJ on the other side of the floor.
And he knew it because he played against him.
Right.
Like he wasn't born yesterday. Like Larry Bird obviously knew what to do, and I mean, just MJ will get you. Like all those games that I was looking at too. What I took away from it was all those games were so close. Every single game was so close. It was such a competitive game that like now you see like 40-point wins, which they were thrown in. I saw there was a 40-point win in one of the games. In a couple of episodes past, but just the close. Like nothing's easy. Nothing is easy. Like going against Reggie Miller, then going against
And then even just the Bulls in
That
general.
was just the Eastern Conference Finals. That was only the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and that's what MJ said. He said they were really the toughest competition at that.
So that went to 7 games.
Yeah. So after that,
brought them
when,
to their brink almost. Like
Yeah.
oh shit, like she. Like MJ even said it. She. MJ was so funny. That was so great to see, man.
And that's when Yeah, and that's when he says like you still have to like come through Chicago. Like they did it. He refers to Utah the last year. Like it's not over, but that they had their moment there with Reggie Miller.
Yeah, and I think the thing we learned about, you talk about that shot he hits. I can speak for this, Gian can too, as Knicks fans. We've had a rough history with Reggie Miller, and obviously the famous 8 points in 8.9 seconds from a couple of years before that, and obviously they had a lot of battles. I'll tell you, this documentary, that first few minutes reminded me how much I fucking hated those Pacers.
They were just everybody did. Like
they were such a thorn in the Knicks side in those.
They had a rep like that. It was just it was just over. Like, but Pat, who do you think was the better team? Do you think the Pacers had the better team, or do you think, because that was a thing too that I was thinking I was seeing come across?
I mean, I think they were a really good team because they had a little bit of everything. They were good defensively. They could shoot. They could score. They had a lot of good role players, young guys, a little bit of everything. But I think Jalen Rose, even he hit the point very well there when he said, like in that last few minutes, you saw the difference between like a good team and a championship great team. And the Bulls had that like other level where they could.
They were a band of brothers. They knew it.
Killer instinct.
They have been there, and I would still take the Bulls. Yeah,
they weren't worried. Yeah. They weren't worried.
And that's why, like Game 7 in Chicago, MJ guaranteed it. He pulled it like easy. Like he knew it, and he had Gus. He had Gus led on his side.
That's when his security guards. They were. That I thought was so fascinating too, to see that his security guards were his only friends because he couldn't go out anywhere except the people that were literally guarding him. And he's like, might as well let's make a friendship out of this.
And he used them as mentors too. They were older guys.
Yeah. They were with him through everything. Think about it. They were with him through everything.
Right.
Yeah.
If they were there, they were his bodyguard for that for so many years.
It's like almost like you don't feel bad for him because he's got 6 rings and he's probably the greatest player of all time and he's got all the accolades. He's doing okay, but it just makes you wonder, like, would you choose that lifestyle of just like you give up everything personal and you completely separate yourself from everyone? Like it's like it was weird. Like you're watching like that behind the scenes footage in the locker room, and he's in his own little area, completely separated from everyone else.
Yeah, we referenced that, right?
King
that's
holding
his locker.
Court,
it's like
that's
an
his
office.
Locker. That was his locker.
It's like
I thought that
it's like
was
a mob
funny.
boss. Come into my office,
Yeah. Like, can I see Mr. Jordan today?
Yeah, right.
What do you have?
All right, send him in. He's like the Godfather.
Yeah. When was your appointment?
He had no choice. He had to live this closed off. They talked about that. This closed off, secluded life because he became larger than life, and he just didn't. Yeah, he became this rock star, and he had to be around, like you guys said, older guys who were going to look out for his best interest and were going to provide sound advice.
Yeah. And then at the end, he just throws in a nice little "fuck you, you bitch" to Larry Bird. Yeah, he said it in a more playful way.
Larry's like, I knew it. Larry's like,
and he was like, hey, well, you gave us a run. He's like, now you can go work on your golf game.
Dude, the trash talk was astonishing. Like the trash talk behind it was so real because you obviously heard the stories because we never got to see it up close, but we finally did get to see it, and it was just awesome to see. I still can't get over his mentality. I think it's still made up how he literally told himself that another player told him good game just to piss him off, just to piss himself off. I can never picture doing that to myself. I can never picture myself like getting in a competition and being like, all right, Wade said good game. All right, let's get Wade. Like the mentality is just awesome.
Playing it back to back.
Just to go.
Yeah, it really was. And then in this episode too, they flashback, but really the next little patch is about their bouts with the Jazz. So in '97 they faced them in the finals. This is when Malone wins the MVP of that season. That's obviously enough to get MJ to want to beat your ass. And then you throw into the fact that they tell the story that Brian Russell, who comes up multiple times getting owned by MJ, but he says that when MJ had retired, they met up somehow. The teams crossed paths when he was playing baseball, and Brian Russell just comes up. He's like, "Oh, why'd you quit?" And it's just like now everyone knows MJ now at this point of this documentary, and like just like throwing fuel on the fire. I'm sure that's partially something he thought about when he came back. Like that's not just something you don't say. And he even said I put him on the list. It's like the laminated list. Just put them right on it.
When are these guys gonna learn? Like, just shut up.
Yeah,
Just don't
right.
We
say.
talked about that last episode too. With
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember you guys were talking about
With
like,
BJ Armstrong.
BJ
Like,
Armstrong.
what are you
and
doing?
he even was on the
You
team.
know him.
he was yeah, and he was on the team. He won the first 3 titles with him. Like,
And
oh,
'cause
Yeah, like that was just a ridiculous. Like that was just wild. That's why that was one of the takeaways from that because that almost just bounced you back to last episode. And you're like, really, what an idiot.
Right.
And then later on, it's great how we'll talk about it, but how it comes back up again in '98. Like just like, oh,
Right.
just dumb. And also in this, the biggest story probably, sadly, that has come out of this documentary is the flu game, which is now the Pizzagate, which was the food poisoning game. Which is so much has just come out from that. But one comment about the game itself, other than the fact that he was crazy, was that comment that Jerry Sloan kind of seems like a funny guy, the coach of the Jazz, like with the press. He seemed like he kind of had that dry sense of humor with them. But he kind of seemed kind of serious where he was like, I didn't know he was sick. Because like you wouldn't have really known. Like he just had a bad first half, really, if you're just watching the game. But that was the best thing really that's coming out of this now in the media. It's funny that's what we're running with.
He was so gassed in that game.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Whether it was the flu or if it was just food poisoning or if he was
running on E.
Someone said there's a conspiracy theory that they said he was hungover from gambling the night before.
Yeah, there's so many things. I've heard that one. Someone said he was on
Right.
mushrooms. Like I've heard like so many different stories now. But the most consistent one I have heard because Tim Grover, I think his name is the trainer.
Yep.
That guy was on Part of My Take, and he also had told that story actually the week before that it was food poisoning, not flu. But the whole 5 guys delivering pizza, it is a little weird. I don't think it was 5 guys.
The kid came out and who delivered the pizza.
Yeah, at the time,
Like, it was at the time he was he was trying to
Still
become a
delivering.
manager. So he wanted to make the pizza himself. He was a big Bulls fan and a big Michael Jordan fan. And he was like the only one in Utah that was a Chicago fan, which is kind of ironic too. I don't know how accurate their story is either.
Well, that's what's going to come into that because we could dissect this story too, which is funny.
So he went and so he made the pizza personally, so he knew that no one would put anything in it. So he went and he nixed the whole 5 people went. He said it was only him and one other guy, and obviously they said it was a Bulls player because it was late at night, and it was just pepperoni toppings.
Yeah.
And
he
so
said
they went
right into them, right?
And his trainer, so he ran into one guy. He doesn't remember who it was. He was like, "Oh, pizza."
Ironically,
and like, that's not I mean, it is kind of like true.
Yeah,
like, you probably don't remember at the time.
I think it's a mix of both stories too.
So it could be exaggerated,
yeah.
obviously. So then he goes into, so he gets to the room and the trainer comes out. Obviously, he takes the pizza. So what he got out of it was a wave. He's like, "Can I at least say hi to him?" And they really just like open the door, like a little crack. You seen the door, and MJ just like "Thank you," and that was it. So he said he personally delivered it without anybody touching it. So
and he made it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how he knew from like the point of making the pizza that it was going to Michael Jordan. That's where I don't know. But if he thought, even if he knew it was going to a Bulls player, like
he said it was a Bulls player. He was a big Bulls fan, like he said.
Which is odd though in Utah. Like,
he said it was odd. He said it was like the only one rooting for.
Actually, at the same time, at this point where the Bulls
ironic.
are like this, they've already had 5 champions. 4 about to win.
Yeah,
5.
he was just I mean, you're the bandwagon on that point.
Yeah, I guess it's not that.
So. Yeah, so he delivered the pizza. So what I found weird about it too is that I don't know if you guys caught it. MJ spits on his food before he eats it.
Yeah, well, I thought he just did there because I heard the story was like they all ate without him.
He doesn't want anybody touching his pizza, so he spit on it.
Yeah, and I thought he was like, like fuck you guys, you ate without me. I'm gonna spit on the pizza so none of you can eat it.
Right.
Yeah, and this was like 11 o'clock at night, so I don't know what you can get sick of from that, but that's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah,
I just think like you look at that game. And I think what was crazy about it was, like, you remember, like, the Jazz go up, like, 16 in the first half of that game. Yeah, I mean, they were – clearly you could see, like you were saying, Jake, Jordan is fatigued. He's not himself. This is a team that was up 2-0, and they dropped 2. So now they are at – if they were to lose that game, you go down 3-2. You have 2 cracks at home, but still you're down. You're on the brink of elimination going into a Game 6. I was so impressed with that just showed the mental – like, that's what it takes. Like, you can be physically gifted and stuff, but it's the mental strength that differentiates the good from the great, and that's what we saw in that game.
They played every single game.
Yeah,
all of them played every single game.
And they were down. You said you could easily. You go down 16 like that on the road in that hostile environment in Utah. Forget it. But they kept just clawing away bit by bit, and you saw as in that game, everybody did a little bit, helped step up to help him along, and obviously he had this superhuman game.
Exactly. And he had 44 minutes, 38 points.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
He played
Amazing.
so much. I'll get in the end, but like they played so much basketball. Like that's why they were so broken down at the end of the 90s.
Right.
Like that's why Scottie Pippen couldn't play with the Rockets. He got that huge deal, which he deserved.
Yeah.
Because of what Krause did, but it's just like, I mean, he just was. They're all just so broken down. That's why there's load management nowadays, and it's like.
Well, and eventually that's why he had to start like leaning on other players too, which they started to get into in this because in '97, this is when he says that Steve Kerr like earned his wings, and that's where they kind of get into a little bit of Steve Kerr, which was a little bit of a story I know I didn't know about, but a little
winner,
bit,
right? Game
yeah.
winner.
So he hits the game winner, and even then like you hear in the post game MJ so like sincere saying like I'm really happy for Steve, like you see him like kiss him on the forehead after the game.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, like just the biggest moment. Like that's everything that like the relationship we've seen between the two of them. That's like built to that moment. So, and I mean, really, who he looked up to, he said was Paxson on that team. Like before he got to that team, and then he got there the year that Paxson was going to retire. So he did learn a little bit from him too in terms of the game, I think. And
they're almost
why
identical.
he was so similar as a player, really, for the Bulls.
They hit clutch shots, identical.
Yeah.
They made Jordan trust them.
Yeah.
In
And overall,
big situations.
Yeah, and Steve Kerr is just like his stats are ridiculous. Like he's a heavy hand that this guy's got. Like
he's got a resume.
Yeah, five rings with in the NBA, 3 with the Bulls, 2 with the Spurs, and then got 3 with the Warriors as a coach too. It's just wild, and he still holds the best percentage for 3-point shooting. Yeah. Is it just playoffs or is it regular season?
It might be. I'm not sure.
I think it might be regular season.
Or maybe it's regular.
Yeah, it might be both even. Yeah, I didn't look too much into the playoff one, but yeah.
That's what's so crazy. You guys are so right. Like you saw his story, which is incredible. As Wade, this was all new to you. I mean, like I remember.
Yeah.
New York Times did like a big story on this last year, and he's very open about it because he's very like pro gun control, and he talks a lot about how like his father's upbringing. That's why he's a very smart guy if you hear him in interviews and stuff. And he's a really, and so, he came in the league. He was a role player. He just earned his keep. He worked hard. And Jordan, more than anything, he didn't respect talent as much. He respected people that busted their ass.
Yeah.
And he earned that. And then, he wins 3 with Chicago. And then, like you said, everyone forgets this, but he was part of those first 2 title teams in San Antonio with Duncan and Robinson and Greg Popovich and Parker and Ginobili. Like he was part of that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
that's
was like
a role
stat
player
ESPN saved and pulled out of their pocket too. But like that's been a known stat. But like it was really brought to light then, and that's when I saw it then and looked even more into his stats and just saw and how it's like it's just really showing a brighter light on him and really gained a lot more respect even for him as an overall person.
Right.
And like you said, when his dad was murdered in Beirut, right?
Yeah.
Like that was such a sad thing to see.
Yeah, his father Malcolm, and then we got to meet his mom Anne in that series
Yeah,
too. They said was like
you guys
said, the sweetest lady. But I heard some interviews with the director, and that's what he was like. That was a great honor in itself, just to meet his mom and then see the whole see his childhood home and all that. So.
I gained a lot more respect because I had a grudge against Steve Kerr because he was in the running back in the day to be coach of the Knicks, which he probably wouldn't even be coach of anymore because they would have fired him within 3 days.
Nope. Hey, here's the thing. Like you can say, I mean, that's a whole nother topic for another time, but now we know why you people can knock him for, you coached Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Yeah. But here's the thing. The guy played under Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, 2 of probably the 5 greatest coaches in NBA history. No wonder why he's a good coach. Probably knows.
Yeah, all right. I know. It all makes sense.
It all adds up. It all makes sense,
So, I was like, "Who's Steve Kerr?" Well,
you agree? The Knicks
wouldn't
have.
Now I get it.
The Knicks wouldn't have given him a chance.
Well, here's the thing, though. Because
of Phil Jackson.
But Phil Jackson offered him the job. He turned it down. He turned the Knicks down for Golden State. So.
Yeah, because Knicks is such a mess.
He saw the writing on the wall. Yeah.
Smart dude, obviously from everything he went through, he obviously knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And he definitely picked the right path because no matter what people say about that team, like I said before, nothing is easy. No matter what team you go against, you're going against LeBron, Love, Kyrie, nothing.
Kawhi with the Raptors.
Kawhi with the Raptors. Like nothing's easy. Like
right.
Maybe
you gotta
just
have
laughed at
everybody
it
healthy.
and was like, Phil, you're the GM. No thanks.
But it's so funny too. Going back to Kerr, he was like, MJ was like, "Yo, I'm gonna pass you." He's like, "Whisper, yo, I'm gonna pass you the ball." He's like,
Oh, yeah.
"I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready."
I got it.
That's like us.
That was funny.
Us in
It's
the
funny
St.
how he like
Ben's days,
admitted
just
it
like
too. Yeah,
Coach
the
Lou,
whole,
like,
excitement.
you're like, you're gonna give it a. All right, Pat, you're gonna take the shot. Pat's like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'll take the shot. I promise.
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah.
like a decoy.
Yeah.
I'll take the shot. That's me.
I will certainly
Exactly.
take the shot.
No, but I think
Yeah.
what was cool, I think what it is about, and I think it's interesting. It's kind of ironic is that you talked about the burnout that these guys had, and it's really interesting because that's what we saw with the Warriors at the end of last year. I mean, 5 straight years you go to the finals. You saw it with the Heat when they went to 4 straight finals earlier this past decade when LeBron was there, and it's like you guys have both been saying, you know, the burnout after the first three championships and the second 3. These guys are cooked because it's 100+ games.
MJ
It's
retired
300
twice.
games. Right.
MJ retired twice in that span. In 10
Crazy.
years.
That's nuts. But yeah, so they show 97 with the Kerr, and then so they win that obviously. So now they have 5, and then they're coming back the next year in the finals, face the same Jazz team.
Yeah.
After beating the Pacers, and this was the only team they hadn't beaten all year in the regular season. So game 1, we had some what was it? So Scottie Pippen, what was his trash talk before the game that they didn't
That
really
was-
touch on?
No,
this, right?
it was at the end. So he touched on it in the first episode where they introduced Scotty in the 1st episode where they went through his story. It was in that Jazz game. Karl Malone at the end of the game was had the chance to put the Utah Jazz in a great position to win, and Scotty walked past him because Karl Malone's nickname is the Mailman, and he said 6 words, and they were, "The mailman don't deliver."
Does not
The
deliver.
mailman, it's the mailman
Yeah,
doesn't
mailman's
deliver
over.
on Sundays.
There you go. There
The
you
mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays.
There
Oh
you go.
man. Whew.
So
Yeah,
then, and
math
then
guy.
Karl Malone went on to miss both free throws.
go. Yep.
And that's what led to Jordan making that game-winning shot, 1 of 2 over the aforementioned Brian Russell in that game, which put Chicago up 1-0 in '97. Yeah.
Oh my God, Brian Russell's trash.
Yeah, he really got a bad rep. There's a lot of people that got bad reps. I mean, they're deservingly so. He got. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Bulls lose the first game though in overtime of this
Yeah.
98 series, and they win the next 2 games. This is when Rodman just does Rodman things. It is, no big deal. Middle of the finals, let's leave. Go wrestle a little bit.
yeah. Let me go to
Hulk
WWE. Let me go to
Yeah, Hulk
WWE.
Hogan, Carmen Electra.
That was
Carmen
so
Electra again, like,
awkward.
yeah, I don't know. He just took another detour. I don't know.
Yeah.
From here. And so he's in Auburn Hills, Michigan with Hulk Hogan. Yeah. Just skipping
WWF
practice. I guess, yeah, at the time it was WWF is what I was figuring.
R.I.P.
And then, yeah. And then, just, again, like similar Rodman, he just shows up the day before game 4. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Everyone rips him. But this was Phil Jackson. I mean, he let Rodman be Rodman, and that's the only reason why Rodman was Rodman.
So Rodman is a human being. So I mean, he's not locked up into the Chicago Bulls. So I do agree that he can go out and do whatever he wants. He's just his shit is out there, so he's
Yeah.
going to get seen. And I mean, as long as you perform, fuck it.
yeah. Hey,
I
he's like
really don't care
Odell,
what he
except
did.
Odell lost in the game after.
Odell
the
has
play-in.
also 0.
the
Yeah.
Miami trip.
I think
Not
he
the
has a
plane, the
playoff
boat,
win.
the boat incident.
boat.
Yeah.
The infamous boat picture. No, I think you're right about Rodman. Is like I think it was the fact that he backed it up. Like he was crazy. He would go to Vegas. He took that detour. He would go to wrestle in Detroit.
That was only 2 instances we know of.
right.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, those are only 2. But there's a lot more they just didn't cover in that. But I think what the thing with Rodman is he backed it up, like both you said, and you mentioned about Phil Jackson. The thing that made Phil so good was that he had to let Dennis be Dennis, and he had to let him. He had to be like, okay, you
Yeah.
go and get wasted in Vegas for a couple days. I'm not. It's not what we would do, but they knew that's how they would get the most out of him because the problem was in the past, other coaches tried to kind of rein him in, and it only got worse. But it did show me though, after that wrestling incident, that no matter what, that guy was gone from the Bulls after that season. There was no shot. He
Yeah,
was
for
coming
sure. But I mean, he comes back in the next game, like you said, and delivers. He comes through. He has a good game. He drills free throws, and they win the game.
Yeah.
And then they're rolling into game 5 thinking they have a chance to win it at home. And that's kind of when I think they kind of just overlooked them a little bit. But also, I mean, it's a tough competitor that they're against. So it comes down to that last second shot that MJ's got to throw up. Again, still a little bit of time on the clock. Again, when a team goes up and you think you're going to win, but he did miss that one. It was kind of from far out, so it's understandable. And then we roll into game 7, and this is when there's some underlying
Game 6.
Yeah, game 6. Sorry, I wish it would. Seems like it should be a game 7, right?
Some of them seem like they should be game 7,
Yeah.
but they didn't really get to a game 7.
Yeah, and then
Only 2.
So Scotty's
Three.
coming in.
2 in the
Yeah,
Just
championship.
one. Yep.
yeah, and then Scotty's coming in with a hurt back, and on the first
That was
play,
wild.
he
I couldn't
fucks
get
it
over
up.
that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my back hurts a little bit. First play, dunk, fuck.
And then they're talking about like he was losing feeling in his like fingertips or his,
Yeah,
his
yeah.
arm
And they
his
were
leg, and
pumping
I was
him
like,
with
he's paralyzed.
God knows what.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
like,
that's why the guys like with medicine and a lot of treatment.
but what a decoy! They just knew how to play. They just knew they had it down to a science. They just
Yeah.
they pushed their buttons right. Like that's what you do.
They
And
could
we
do it
have
with their
to-
eyes closed because it's what we just talked about. They've been there time and time and time again that, the execution, like, yes, Scotty's not 100%, but they've just been there a million times that little thing, that experience and the mental toughness is the difference between them and Utah, who was, like you guys said, a really great team still.
Yeah, and him coming in and out was still enough of a decoy to like kind of do it. And that's it was funny. He's like, I was a decoy. Like, that was what I was.
I was.
And then you had like the little Rodman Malone battle. So you got Rodman fully engaged. That's him fully engaged fighting people. And then MJ just works his magic in that last sequence, which is just like magical. It's like just so like to end it all the way it actually turns out. It's just so prototypical MJ, how he gets them within. So it's 86-83 Jazz, 41 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And these 41 seconds, he just ties the bow on it all. And he hits that layup. Then he picks Malone's pocket, which is just like, tough luck, Malone. And then Phil's like, all right, MJ, this is on you. You got this. Like, why are you going to let them make a plan to counteract whatever we come up with? And then, like, you got the best player on the court. And then our buddy Brian Russell comes in, smartest guy on earth, never trash talked anyone in his life. And he just gets completely ankles broken by MJ. And, of course, MJ's going to hit that shot.
That was epic.
There's
That was
no-
epic. The ending to that game.
Yeah, like, that's a way too easy of a shot that he's not going to hit. I mean,
Absolutely.
last shot in a Bulls uniform, right?
The most impressive part of that, I thought, the shot's great. That's so awesome. That frame, that photo
sick.
from down the court, that wide shot is so cool of him. But I think what's great, the coolest part, the most basketball savvy is the steal on Malone because Jordan's man
like
is
typical.
going to the corner.
Yeah.
But he was smart. He knows, like, Stockton gave the ball up to Malone, so it's going to be one of those two guys who takes that shot. He's like, I'm going to stay over. I'm going to cheat over double. He can't see me. Sneaks around. That was just such a smart basketball play. So smart.
Yeah, and that's just like, that's why it's so crazy. Like, it just hits on all levels. Like, this whole sequence of his like existence in basketball and like in the game, like playing game to game.
Everything. They were just so close. Every game was just so close.
And then they come out and I mean, Stockton just heaves up a shot. I don't really know. I won't get into that whole. They didn't seem to have a plan with 5 seconds left, to be honest.
They should have just gave it to Jeff Hornacek, right?
Hey, Knicks legend Jeff Hornacek.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people intertwined with the Knicks on these teams, and none of them have rubbed off on any part of the Knicks.
No, but I think, it was, what was crazy about it was just that, the fact that it's like you said, Wade, it brought everything together, and these games were so close, but it just was a perfect way to end that run. And a perfect way to go out, that shot, the way it all culminated. If only he didn't go and play for the Wizards years later. That was the perfect way to end his career. Really
but he's just too much of a competitor to stay out of the game. That was the problem, I guess. Like, he just had to get back in. Like, it's like his itch. He just has to scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I think he's part of an ownership now. Like, he's just
Absolutely.
But this is like
history.
Yeah, imagine just being like Chicago at this point, those fans, like it's just you're on top of the world, and it's just crazy to think that like this team just paved the way for what we see now, and in terms of players and dynamics between players and dynamics between players and owners, and
Yeah.
just how now though the players are just a little bit more in control. So, but that's a result of kind of what happened all this time. You know, we saw this tension between management and players this whole series. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that something kind of had to change. So,
Exactly. Yeah, they paved the way because there was someone always they were so dominant that like Charles Barkley and some of those players don't get recognized as much. Karl Malone because they never won a ring
Right.
because they
yeah,
were so dominated in that era. Whereas like now it's like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. Nah, Kevin Durant. No, not Kevin Durant. But along those guys, you're gonna remember them. You're gonna remember them. Like I said, nothing's easy. Like no knock against Kevin Durant, but you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
I think what you're saying is you make a good point. Is that you're trying to is that
Just trying to
Barkley,
compare.
right? Barkley, Malone,
As good as they are, Russell
Right.
Westbrook and James Harden, they'll never get a look unless they win a ring.
Exactly.
Like
Right.
Karl Malone, no one talks about Karl Malone anymore.
Yeah, he refused to be on it. They did have him on part of my tape though. Interesting dude.
Yeah, he is. Oh, yeah, he's an interesting
He
guy.
did the whole interview without his shirt on.
Oh, yeah, he's an interesting fella. That's
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
but
So,
but at the same time, like a lot of
That's a whole
respect for the
podcast
guy that like how he went on to the bus and stuff after. Like he was pretty friendly with MJ at that time.
yeah,
So
right,
like, they respected each other off the court. It seemed like
right.
now he doesn't want to they kept trying to ask him questions about the Last Dance, and he was like, there's other things going on in the world, right?
yeah.
It's just like he's just
So
kinda,
Patrick
I
Ewing
think he's
too.
bitter
Patrick
though that they
Ewing
didn't
said the
ask
same
him,
thing.
like because they didn't even ask him to, or maybe no, I think he
I-
turned it down, but
Well,
because Stockton did it, so they probably offered.
Patrick
Right.
Ewing didn't do it. Patrick Ewing was like, I didn't want to live through that again. Like it was, it looked like an intense time.
Yeah,
But-
but it's crazy too how like even this creates like we were kind of talking a little bit before this that like this made some of us respect LeBron more because that's a big debate really through all this, and people thought this was going to come out with MJ on top, but it's really also different to compare him. They like being in different eras and all that, but like they play a different game even too. It's just not really even fair to compare the two in my opinion from like a not big NBA person looking out, but like seeing now both their backstories because they're really just very similar. Like I mean, off the court, I mean LeBron's had more opportunity potentially, but he's done a lot off the court. So I mean, they're both well-rounded guys.
They're very. You're 100% right, Wade. It's made me appreciate LeBron more, and like whenever basketball comes back, I know will be honest and say I hope that we get another ring or two for LeBron, not just till he gets closer.
I hope.
But I think it's just because I appreciate his greatness that he's 35 and playing so well. And who knows how much longer we have of him. And like you said, it's not – I agree with you. It's not fair to compare the two because, A, they played in two different eras, and B, they're two very different players. They're not comparable in the way they played the game. So it's very hard to do that. And so I think it's important we just appreciate both of them for what they've done, the greatness they bring to the court. And yes, and I think what's interesting too, you bring up a great point. They're very different personality-wise off the court. LeBron's he's an open book. He's everywhere. He wants you to know his story. Jordan is, this is why this is the first time we've really heard from him this lengthy. It's really since 1998 almost. So it says a lot about the two guys and stuff. And again, the difference of the times because there's a social media thing around now that Jordan didn't have. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what if maybe if MJ went back, he may have done like the decision or like
right, exactly.
when his decision
He
to
wouldn't
go
have done
play
that, but
base.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
But like maybe because he realized like there's backstories to why LeBron did all this. Like he's just making money more. But he may not have done it like exactly like that. But I mean MJ covered the logo. Like MJ didn't show that he was completely scared to go above and beyond for business reasons.
Bingo.
I agree that both of them taught us in different ways. Like you said, LeBron is like an open book. He uses his platform to make the best of it. Where Jordan did too, but not to the extent of giving kids a whole school amount. Like Jordan didn't open a whole school, did he? Right?
No, he's not.
No.
Yeah, like I'm sure he's on his charities.
I'm sure
he has his foundation and
especially
everything.
now.
But it just in the end, they both taught us different ways. Michael taught us on the court how to just win.
Mhm.
And LeBron's teaching us also how to win, but also how to balance a home life, because there is a life after basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is LeBron,
Exactly.
and that's what LeBron tried to keep for his kids. He tried to keep it as private as possible because it's a lot. It is
Right.
a lot.
Right.
We can't relate.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And then unfortunately, we're kind of to wrap up.
It's over. It's
yeah.
over.
So that's
No.
and then they offered Jackson to come back. But
It's over,
I
Johnny.
mean, they blew it already at that point. So that it was all done. Pippen wasn't going to come back.
They couldn't
Jordan
do
could
it.
say what he wants
They couldn't.
about some of them
You
coming
can't.
back, but
It's almost like someone retiring, like Jeter and all of them, like on their last go around of like
Yeah.
all the gifts and everything. You can't just like
you can't go
to know
back
it.
and say
Right.
Phil made a whole playbook called The Last Dance. You can't just go back.
Exactly.
Like they probably would have won it again, but yeah, I just think it was just time. Something like it's like if
And
they
some of
didn't
these
say it wasn't The
guys-
Last Dance, I would believe it more. But that and the rebuild they had after it was awful. It was like Jamal Crawford and I couldn't even
Hey,
name any other.
don't slander Jamal Crawford.
No, besides Jamal Crawford, there was someone else on the team. that I
Elton
recognized.
Brand.
Elton Brand, that's the other one. And I was
But
just like,
that's the thing that, I
broken
think
down, like, and they haven't been good since. Besides Derrick Rose,
they
We
had
know how
5
that
years
goes.
after Jordan was there. Jerry Krause was still the GM. They did nothing, and he was let go.
Because I think
Yeah,
my
he went
last
to the
comments about
Yankees.
that. Yes, he did.
I think he went to
Wait,
White
he went
Sox
to the
first.
Yankees?
Eventually.
No way!
He didn't do
He did
anything
work
for
in
them,
the
but-
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, he eventually did. Yeah,
But think
he
about it. I
found
mean,
dirt cheap.
that's when it goes down to Reinsdorf offered Phil to come back,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
who does it fall on? Reinsdorf, Phil. It doesn't fall on Phil because that was it. They told him.
Yeah,
he
I
can't
mean
change
that's
his
what I
mind that
mean.
quick.
They said it at the beginning, and that's what MJ says. He
And
said,
it's
they said
Reins,
at the
and it could
beginning
be
it was the last
Reinsdorf.
dance. So it's
Does
the last-
Reinsdorf want to
And
give all that
Reinsdorf-
money out again?
Reinsdorf could keep doing that over and over, but Krause, and then there would still be that problem. It's just it was probably healthier for everyone to go away.
I will
But-
say, I think you guys made a great point. It is a shame that Jerry Krause is not alive to speak on his
Definitely.
behalf and defend himself,
Mhm.
because I think
Really
it is a little unfair to him a little bit. But I think Jerry Reinsdorf gets off the hook a lot here.
Oh,
I think
100%.
he gets off the hook a
throws
lot.
he throws Krause a lot out in front.
It is,
And he
it's-
can because he
yeah.
knows
He was a
guys
great.
that-
He's more. I mean, he's very revered in the baseball world too, Reinsdorf. But
Right, because he owns the
he's
White
still-
Sox.
Yeah, but he
But
he's
he's known
definitely
for
exposed
being
himself.
No,
Not
I
coming
mean,
out
known
looking
for being,
good out of that.
But also, do you want to go out and then lose, in the playoffs, or God forbid something happens, someone gets hurt, they're all
Right.
broken down already. It was time, and everything, all things could come to an end. Big takeaways I come away with is nothing's easy, and it's just the slightest motivations. I just took away a lot of that. Just the mentality is just astonishing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Excellent.
But definitely, all in all, great series. And I mean, I look forward to some of these other 30-30s. They're about 30s for 30s. They're about to put out. But overall, yeah, I take away. I mean, learned a lot more about MJ and that team in general, and it was cool. The NBA was cool back then. And now I kind of understand how it is, why it is the way it is now. So
I appreciate the NBA today, still,
Yeah.
obviously, but that comes out now, and it's just
yeah.
wow, just
But,
appreciate it even more.
But definitely,
Thanks for coming, Pat. It's great to have you.
definitely
Great
Hey,
appreciate
this was
having you
awesome.
guys
Great
on.
insight.
This was great chatting
Yeah.
some hoops, and
Yeah.
this was a blast. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you for watching. I mean, we can go on forever with this stuff. It was
Oh, yeah.
great
We could
stuff.
just-
So much
Wow.
to take away.
Yeah, but everyone,
Make
thanks
me
for
like
listening.
Mike.
Thanks for watching, and check out Get Got Podcast. Check out the Point After Podcast, and read your boys' articles on the Philly Voice.
Yes,
Ralph,
please
check
check
him
us out. A lot of COVID. Let's
Yeah,
go.
he's got a lot going on. All right, and everyone, Get Got Podcast.
Hello? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had